Hello and welcome back to another episode of Red Tinted Glasses. We are back. It's club football finally making its return after the international break. And if you're a Scotland fan, I'm sure you'll be desperately delighted to see the Dandy Dons back in action. Are you, Phil?
Very much so, although we'll ignore the pre-international break football.
Yes, exactly. And making a return to the podcast this week, Callum's back with us as well. Callum, excited to have you back and excited to have the Dons back as well.
Absolutely. God, watched the Scotland game on Sunday on the train back from Newcastle, and dearie me, I wish I didn't get as good a connection as I did because Jesus Christ, what a waste of time that was. It made the train journey feel even longer, but delighted to be back on the show. Delighted the Dons are back, and delighted to be able to do it from my own flat. So far, Wi-Fi holding up, everything's great.
Yeah, there's a reason why this week's episode isn't being streamed live on the YouTube channel, but we'll be back next week with that show as well. If you are watching on YouTube or listening, make sure you subscribe, follow us, get those notifications on because we might be dropping a former player interview over the weekend at beginning of next week. So get those notifications on for that. But as Phil said, for those that listen to us and watch regularly, will note we were absent last week, primarily due to the fact that all three of us were absent from the St Johnstone game. And we know that a lot of you don't really like podcasts that speak about things that they didn't watch. So it wasn't really worth us doing the episode. We all had various activities on. But in terms of the result and the game, the only thing I'm going to ask you both, um, of course, disappointing to drop points away at bottom of the league, but Phil maybe bailed out by Derek McInnes and Tony Doherty taking points off Hibs and Dundee United.
Yeah, it's probably for the best of the old men's mental health not to review that game too much because it was an absolute stinker. Um, but yeah, it was good that United didn't increase the gap a little bit more, and Derek managed to grab a point against Hibs, but a little bit frustrating at the same time that we couldn't make up that ground and actually try and capitalise. I feel it's kind of been a bit of a common theme as of late. When teams stumble around us, we seem to
Mhm.
stumble equally as hard, and it's just a little bit annoying.
Yeah, and I guess Callum, we've kind of spoken about it on the show plenty of times about now that we're into the business end of the season. It really needs to be the time for us to step up and take the race for third into our own hands. And again, hindsight's a wonderful thing when you see the results, but it was another opportunity missed. Rugby Park's not the easiest venue to go to for teams Hibs dropping points, and anything can happen in a derby game. So we're now looking to this weekend at home to Motherwell as the next perfect opportunity to try and grab back the initiative. But again, you look at the fixtures for other teams, you could say they've got favourable fixtures coming up this weekend.
Yeah, you could do. I mean, I was unfortunate enough to sit through the 90 minutes, despite the fact I couldn't go due to work commitments against St Johnstone. And Jesus Christ, it was awful. And as you say, anything could happen in a derby, but I really didn't expect that to happen in the Dundee derby. I really, really could not see a Dundee win, let alone such an emphatic one. But thankfully, it did happen, and I guess you could say a point gained. Glenn, we've gained a point on Dundee United, so it's not all bad. A little bit of silver lining after that utter dross served up at McDermott Park.
Yeah, exactly. And it shows the straws that we're clutching onto. But hey, look, it could be crucial come the end of the season. We never know what benefits fourth place could come if that's where we end. Obviously, the ambition is to finish as high up the table as possible. As we said, it's been the international break as well. There's been Dons in action. Toby Keskinen rounded off his international week today, which is Tuesday night. I forget what day it is already, with a 1-0 win over the Slovenian under-21s. He also played 66 minutes at the weekend in a 4-2 defeat to the Georgians. So 66 and 70 minutes, Phil, respectively, for Tope, a player who will be going to the under-21 championships in the summer as well. Um, I guess the big positive is no injuries on his front coming back into this weekend.
Yeah, good to kind of keep some minutes in the legs. And like I say, no injuries is a bonus compared to I suppose other other areas on the pitch over this international break.
Yeah, we'll come on to that one, I guess, in a bit more detail when we preview the Motherwell game, Callum. But Dimitar Mitov really not covering himself in glory in the game against Ireland, the first leg, subsequently going off injured after making an absolute howler, conceding to Matt Doherty. Kevin Nisbet not getting any minutes. Obde Dabag currently in action against Iraq, as we said pre-live. Who thought we would have score notifications for Palestine, Iraq on? But here we are. He also didn't score in the opening game that he played against Jordan. But one player that has scored this international break is Fletcher Boyd. A couple of goals at the under-17s level. We've seen him get minutes in cup action. Could he be a player knocking on Jimmy Tilleen's door for involvement this weekend? Again, with the lack of goals we saw at St Johnstone, could we yet again at this point in the season turn to Fletcher Boyd?
Evidence so far this season showing that that's not going to be the case, but
Yeah.
certainly great that he's gone away on international duty and grabbed a couple of goals. That'll do his confidence the world of good, you'd think. And I suppose there is potential for minutes in there in the middle of the park, especially obviously not in the holding two, but maybe slightly further ahead up the park, given recent injury concerns, as you say, as we'll touch on later, and whether Dante Bovara can stay fit for a run of games. There might be opportunity for Fletcher Boyd. So if he's confident in scoring goals on the international side of things, then it can only be a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. But as we said, in general, most players coming back fit and healthy. But I said we'll discuss Dimitar Mitov's injury when we speak about the Motherwell game. As I said, we're recording this Tuesday evening. Semi-final tickets went on general sale a couple of hours ago. So hopefully we'll start seeing some healthy sales. I know Attendance FC are spunking their load over selling 10,000 already. And I feel it's going to be a battle of the attendances, which is going to get very tedious between now and the semi-final occurring. Any kind of concerns at this early stage, Phil, around our ticket sales?
Not particularly. A little bit, in a way. I kind of feel like it perhaps should have gone to general straight away. I feel like anyone who wanted a ticket was going to get a ticket regardless. So it would have been nice just to go to general straight away and try and boost that right off the bat. But yeah, I'm hoping with a good performance against Motherwell, people will then snap tickets up off the back of that, because there's nothing quite like a bit of form and a good result to get people in the mood for Hampden. But yeah, I think it's just a little bit frustrating because you just know Hearts aren't going to shut up about this, especially if we have empty blocks come the 19th of April.
Yeah, I already had a message as soon as they posted that they sold 10,000 to say that we wouldn't even sell that amount. So yeah, it started already. Also announced today was the fact that we've sold out the trip to Ross County next weekend. So, the games are coming thick and fast. And, I get that following, the team isn't exactly cheap, and, the pricing isn't exactly the best for the semi-final, Callum. But, attendances ultimately don't win football matches, let's be honest.
No, they don't. However, with the way things are going right now, we can be thankful that maybe that's not the case. I also got a message immediately in one of our group chats from one of my Hearts supporting pals straight away saying, take notes, lads, this is what a big club does. And oh, very good. The big club also get relegated twice in recent memory, do they? God, what a shower of shite they are.
Yeah, I just think it's also strange that we've gone from when it's been on sale to, the points holders, if you want to call it that, you could buy up to 4, but now that's on general sale, they've put it down to 2. That doesn't make a load of sense to me, but yeah, we'll see how sales progress over the next couple of days. Also, in terms of sales and tickets, the season ticket price freeze remains up until the end of the month, and looking ahead to this weekend, it's a near sellout. And Callum, you've been very impressed by the PR marketing around this. Not the £10 pricing, may I add, though.
No. I mean, the £10 pricing, great, but getting Aberdeen money involved is just incredible in my eyes. Not even at the peak of his relevance, just getting him in. I don't know why, but I really, really liked it for that little video, sorry, as he'd say. And I reckon there'd still be a few hundred tickets left had they not got Aberdeen Manny and his pool involved. So good work from the club in my eyes.
See, I'm just gutted we missed the opportunity of you being in your flat to give a "For are you, men?" opportunity missed, Callum. I thought you'd
Yeah.
been on the ball with that one.
Sorry, yeah, no, that's on me. That is on me. I'm just a bit rusty.
This is what happens when he hasn't been on the show for a few weeks. He slacks on that. But Phil, as well, like on that with the £10 tickets this weekend, great to see the buy-in. I mentioned the prices for the semi-final being excessive, but I guess that's what you expect when you get to a National Cup semi-final. But affordable pricing working, and I guess in a game that carries the importance, such as this weekend, the fact that the home support will also extend into Section R this weekend is a further boost for the Dons.
Yeah, no, it's a good game for families as well. Not normally a game that comes with too much rigmarole in and around the ground. So yeah, good to see the family section filling up as well. But yeah, like you were mentioning before we started recording, the opportunity to secure top six with a win. I think having a sellout crowd that's yeah, like you say, bought into the spectacle and bought into the game. There's meant to be fireworks and displays pre-match. So yeah, hopefully gets the crowd going and clinches that top six for the split.
Yeah, nothing like a bit of a pre-match display. But yeah, first weekend of the school holidays as well. So as you say, an ideal opportunity to get families down and involved as well. But yeah, Motherwell travel to Pittodrie this weekend, and as you rightly said, Phil, it's a winning in for the Dons. It feels like a bit of an Americanism in terms of getting to the playoffs, isn't it? But 3 points for Aberdeen would secure our top six status and finally end some of the pant pushing around people's thoughts that we might drop out of the top six. So it would be good to do that and get one box ticked for, I guess, goals for the season. I know some people thought when Jimmy Talene started, as long as we get into the top six, it's a start. So to secure top six with a couple of games to go and be in 2 National Cup semi-finals is certainly impressive for your first season in charge. But Callum, you highlighted to us before we started recording, this game won't be easy given the form that Motherwell are in under new manager Michael Wimmer.
No, they certainly seem to have improved under the German. 7 points from the last available 9, including that win against Rangers as well. So they're no mugs. He seems to have turned things around. But as Phil pointed out prior to us, it seems we were just taking little bits of everyone's conversation before we started recording. So I'll just add this on to then push on to Phil. They've got an lengthy injury list, don't they, Motherwell, Phil?
Yeah. I'm not even going to try and say the striker's name because I'll just butcher it. But the second coming of Stavros Flatley, he's broken his arm, so not ideal for them. But Jack Vale, Paul McGinn, Ross Callahan, Sam Nicholson, Zach Robinson, Archie Mayer, all out injured. According to FutMob, how much they know is probably about as much as me. But yeah, so kind of the same as our injury crisis, as Glenn brought up earlier. Meat of picking up that injury on international duty. It also being revealed that Nielsen could be out for the season with a retina injury. Is that one to keep an eye on for going into the split, Glenn?
Definitely, and there's going to be a full focus on our midfield, I'm sure, as well. You set it up. I'm going to keep it going. Don't you worry about that. Blink and you miss it, some may say. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. But I suppose as well, you mentioned the injury crisis. Lennon Miller is going to be fresh going into this weekend, having no minutes for Scotland, similarly with ourselves and Kevin Nisbet. But, Callum mentions Motherwell, taking 7 out of a possible 9. That also includes coming from 2 goals down last time out against St Mirren. So, they're a team that currently doesn't know when they're beat. So they're certainly going to come up the road full of confidence. And, maybe a little bit surprising that they aren't taking a bigger support given that the £10 was also extended to their fans.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're just behind Hearts outside of the top six, so still plenty to play for from their perspective, as well. Obviously, last time out, beating us 2-0 at Fir Park at the start of Ruby Gate, before he kind of fell apart against St Mirren. So yeah, there's no reason for them not to be confident as a Motherwell fan. what if you watch Sports Scene or are sad enough to sit and watch the Aberdeen St Johnstone full 90, you're probably looking at that and thinking there isn't looking like there's much threat there at the moment. So yeah, kind of surprised there's not more coming up.
Yeah, so we'll see what that support looks like at the weekend. But in terms of Aberdeen focus for this weekend, Callum, Dimitar Mitov, you've said it already. Injured again. Not an injury-prone keeper by any sort of stretch of imagination, but as you said, when was the last time a keeper got injured on 3 separate occasions in a season?
It's mental, isn't it? Well, we didn't think he was injury prone. Maybe he is. How does a keeper get injured 3 times in one season? There'll be keepers that go through their bloody careers with less injuries than that. And as Phil said, we're just going round in circles here.
Yeah.
11 games out. I think he's missed already. Was that correct? Give me a nod if that's correct. It is correct. And then who knows how long this will extend for. But dearie me, we've had an absolute calamity, and thankfully, when Ross Doon has come in, I've been relatively impressed with him. In that, what else can you really ask for from a backup keeper who's signed when he's going to be the backup? You'd have not expected to have played this much. So thankfully, that void isn't too great with him coming in, but it's not ideal. With defence getting settled, you'd hope with Tobers and Knuster and Mitov, you thought that could be a nice little pairing if you can keep that going. Those three, then Tobers goes off injured. Now Mitov's back out. I just hope that the chaos isn't too much. But at least with Duan, I've already played a lot of games. It's not a sort of real unknown quantity. We know what's coming in and what we're getting. But dearie me, Demi Mitov, man.
And I think, I saw Stewie Walker mention it on Twitter that, what sort of team going into the business end of the season suddenly loses the spine of their team. Obviously, with both Mitov and Nielsen out for this weekend. Haven't seen any word if Christopher Tobers is back fit for this weekend or not. Either of you seen anything that says he's
No
back?
idea. I don't think he played against England, did he?
No.
And I don't
He
think he
wasn't in the
travelled
squad.
over.
He wasn't in the squad, but I was confused. I expected him to be in the squad because I think just prior to the St Johnstone game in Tilleen's press conference, he said, "Oh, he just doesn't quite make this one," or words to that effect. But then maybe just him not being involved with Latvia is just as sort of precaution, not to re-aggravate things. And ideally, he'll be fresh for us at the weekend, but not seen anything yet. I presume we'll find out in Yemi's presser.
Yeah, I guess Friday's going to kind of reveal a lot, but Phil, Calm speaks there about Ross Doon being a capable backup, which, as you mentioned, already had to do so 11 times this season. The club, I guess, will maybe tell us more come Friday how severe the injury is to Dimitar because, the headlines are he's in a race to be fit for the semi-final. But do you share Calm's confidence in being behind Ross Doon if called upon for an extended period of time?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've got to be. I mean, as a keeper, there's probably nothing worse than going out and having an entirety of a stadium already sighing in utter disbelief that you're back. So no, and the odd blip here and there, I don't think should really overshadow how good he actually was at times. To be honest, when he was filling in, showed himself to be more than capable as a number two, and I think with Meathoff potentially being out for the semi-final, the more games he can get under his belt leading into that to kind of maybe shake off those cobwebs and nerves is probably for the better. Because I feel like that was maybe one of our other stumbling blocks when Meathoff came back last time round was that random switch between him and Doan for no reason.
Yeah, and I guess, if he is called upon for the semi-final as well, he performed well against Hearts last time, of course, earning us a point. So if it goes to penalties, at least he's got experience of saving one. So there's that in there as well. I guess if we stick on the defence just now, last time out against St Johnstone, we seemed to inexplicably change left back and drop Leighton Clarkson out the team to put Graham Shinney into the midfield, Jack McKenzie back into left back. I mean, obviously, Jimmy Tilleen's argument is that we'd kept a clean sheet in that game, but for me this weekend, I would personally like to see us go back to Graham Shinney at left back to accommodate one of Leighton Clarkson or Dante Polvara in that midfield alongside Ante Palaversa. Callum, you want to come in on that one?
Yeah, I certainly agree. I thought Shinnie was been excellent when he's filled in at left back this season, and I don't know whether the St Johnstone game was that going away there. It's going to be a battle in the midfield. Maybe if they would prefer to put him in there rather than Leighton Clarkson. I don't know if that was the thinking. I suppose against Motherwell, it's always going to be a battle in there as well. But being at home, we'll have a lot more of the attacking impetus, and I'd love to see Leighton Clarkson come in. Because he can really get on the ball when he's in that sort of number 6 role, not to go to Barry Robson when that first happened, but he can really get on the ball and affect things. And having him and Ante Palaversa in there, the quality that they've got to make things happen creatively, and I think that should be the two that we go with. And Graham Shinnett left back as well. He's still got the legs at left back to get up and down the flanking support, and defensively resolute as well. I just think with Dante Polvara, given how little football he's played, he's not going to come in from the start this weekend.
Yeah, I was going to say, Phil, it's a bit of a risk if we did start Dante, as Callum's just mentioned there, the lack of football. But I think the other point that Callum makes is another frustration from me from the St Johnstone game, and we discussed it in the preview of that game, about getting suckered into matching up to St Johnstone's style by trying to fight the midfield battle with similar players, a la Graham Shinney. And I think Carl makes a very valid point that we could easily get suckered into that against a very combative Motherwell midfield as well. I would like us to see us play our own style and our own game and not try and go toe-to-toe with Motherwell's normal style, albeit now under new management and potentially exciting if you're a Motherwell fan. This might not be our usual Aberdeen Motherwell game where they're certainly labelled as hammer throwers like normal.
Yeah, no, I think it will be a bit different. I think the only real proper game I think I've watched was when they went to Ibrox, which is probably a bit different to how they typically play. Obviously, away from home, maybe sat in a bit more and tried to hit on the counter. But just going back to the first point, going from number 6s to quarterbacks with our American boy Dante, of the same opinion that as much as I'd love to see him back in, definitely going to be too soon. But hopefully a decent bit of minutes off the bench, because I do think he's a player that could really benefit us going into this point of the season. But yeah, we spoke about it before. I think it was on the back. Was it on the back of the build up to St Johnstone? It could well have been. But we spoke about sort of having two out and out quality footballers in that midfield, and how much more balanced we look when the likes of Palaversa and Clarkson were able to actually get us on the ball and try and drive us forward. Similarly, Shinney at left back, as much as he's good for getting up and down, I think he kind of adds that extra body into midfield at times, which in a game against Motherwell, dominating the midfield is always going to bring fruition. I mean, they tend to play with a lone striker. So, if you can kind of counter their quality of Lennon Miller with the likes of Palaversa and Clarkson, but, equally have a little bit of extra bite in there with Shinney, I think is the ideal way. But I think it could be quite interesting. It's, similarly to how we were at the start of the season, that sort of unknown entity and how Jimmy was going to line up game to game.
Yeah.
I think Motherwell have now kind of got that on their side. And I think, strangely enough, the injury crisis kind of helps, because you're never quite too sure who's going to be filling in for those players.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. And I want to pick up on the point that you made about the kind of similar styles of Leighton Clarkson and Ante Palaversa, because it's a really interesting point that one of them is very comfortable in sitting deep and the other one happy enough to move forward. So they're kind of quite happy to interchange that role and responsibility. And Callum, going back to your Football Manager days, surely that's something that is wanted by a manager, where in that midfield, such a key area. I remember when we first started this podcast, that seemed to always be the key battlefield that we spoke about in games. In a game like this, if you've got a player quite comfortable sitting and the other going forward and they can switch at ease, that's advantageous, no?
Yeah, it certainly is. And I think, for a lot that had maybe been made of Leighton Clarkson's, being a bit lightweight, just due to his size, essentially. I think Ante Palaversa also absolutely makes up for that. We've seen, just look at his bookings count, that he's more than willing to put himself about there and get involved in that sort of nitty gritty midfield battle that we maybe more expect from the likes of Nilsson and Graham Shinney. So I think it's a combination that could work very well, certainly, especially when we're at home, as I said, when there'll be a big crowd there, they'll be wanting to see us on the front foot and making things happen, some exciting football and winning football as well. I think those two give you the best opportunity for both of those things, just because of their sheer quality. But as you say, they can complement each other well. With Clarkson's wanting to sit and get on the ball a lot, and then Palversa can break forward. But also we know what Liam Clarkson can do when he's going forward as well. If Palversa's sitting doing the dirty work, so it could be a real gem of a combination that we've accidentally stumbled upon, and fingers crossed that is the case.
It could be, but Phil, I guess it comes back to a point you made about Ross Doon and people being like, oh, like that sigh of a player. Would you feel there's pressure on Leighton Clarkson if he was brought in from the start? Because a lot has been labelled around Leighton Clarkson that he's maybe along the lines of Shayden Morris this season in terms of more of an impact player. We saw how he hauled us back in that Dundee United game when he came off the bench. And yes, okay, in from the start against Dunfermline, but lesser opposition. I thought he was impressive. We've not maybe seen, although you could label this for the Aberdeen team as a whole, a real 90-minute performance from Leighton Clarkson. There's only been little bits and pieces throughout games.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right in saying there is going to be a bit of pressure on him, but I think that's the sort of pressure he should be expecting in himself. He's came in as at the time a big money signing from Liverpool with a point to prove, and he was running the show during his loan. So I don't really quite know what the difference is now that it's been made permanent. I think he is the type of player that maybe should shoulder a little bit more. I guess burden is the word to use.
Yeah.
He should really try and take a little bit more of the weight of the team on his shoulders, and like I say, try and prove that point and show that he is actually the quality player that we all said we were getting at the start. And I think he should really thrive on that. And hopefully, he does. Like you say, I think this season he has shown more of his flashes when he's came in off the bench or the odd performance here and there. And I think it is a criticism that likes of me and yourself have put towards him on the show this year, that trying to get that consistency out of him and try to get those more, I suppose, impactful elements of his game, the goals and the assists back out of him, would be ideal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think consistency absolutely is the key. Although we've not seen much consistency again from the team as a whole, as much as we want to label that towards Leighton Clarkson. But Callum, you said about him being tough in the midfield, being tough. Well, it takes someone pretty tough to go into a cage with a lion when you're over in Dubai. So hopefully he's fully recharged and energized from his little trip to the zoo and his experience with all the animals there.
Yeah, maybe that's given him the sort of like the adrenaline rush, the jolt that he needed, perhaps being in the cage with a lion. But he coped. If he can do that, handle a lion, he can handle Lennon Miller, for Christ's sake.
How much of a miss do you think Sivert Nielsen's going to be then, Callum? If going by the word on the street, that he is out for the season, is that a big miss between now and the end of the season?
It is a big miss. I've got a real love-hate relationship with Nilsson, in that I love him when he's doing all the simple things really, really well, and he seems to really make us tick. However, when things aren't coming off for him and he can't make those 5 to 10 yard quick pop passes, then I get really, really annoyed at him. But I think he's a big miss in terms of the experience as well that he has in the middle of the park, and as was mentioned when he signed, the psycho winner mentality, which of course we didn't see for a long stretch of the season. But I just think the way he came in, and when we went on that incredible winning run, he was such a key part of that, because he was on his game every single time, and he really helps us tick. And to be without him, potential for a long part of the remainder of the season, potentially the rest of the season, is a blow, as well as the fact it's just another option gone, which isn't ideal.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say, Phil. Is it more of a bigger blow because it's another option gone, or is it because you're kind of missing that leader mentality, something that Jimmy Tillene always references to? Again, probably a lot of our fans, ourselves included, are going to have one mind and one eye on that game coming up at Hampden for the semi-final. And to be missing potentially two key players from your team already does feel a little bit disheartening. But yeah, I think again, he's been allegedly nursing a groin injury. So as much as it is going to be a miss, and I do echo the sentiment of Callum in having that love-hate relationship with him, it maybe is imperative for next season in mind to get him fully fit in all aspects of his body right now.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think the leadership aspect for me, I think, is the biggest one. I think you can see from the media the club puts out just how sort of well liked and respected he is by everybody amongst the squad, and I think to have that impact, as a new signing, is kind of testament to what he's done in his career. But yeah, similarly, I think it's just at this point in the season, it a midfield that can rotate is so important. And I think having those different facets to your game, we've spoken about the fact that you've got that more ball playing, sort of tidy style of Clarkson and Palaversa. But it's equally as nice to have the mad bastard in the midfield to just kind of go around hitting people and shouting at referees. And I think, to be honest, that's probably the bit I'm going to miss the most. I enjoy the fact that Nielsen just goes tonto whenever anything doesn't quite go our way, because I don't feel there's enough players in the squad that are willing to do that. But yeah, and like we've already said, I think the fact that Povara is sort of slowly making that return as well. I think just having those extra options, that are fit and available is quite important.
Were you coming in with something there, Callum, or?
Just that it's not only referees he's going tonto at, it's his own players as well. You get a great view of it from the south stand.
Yeah.
It's really enjoyable, especially when the game's a bit dull and you just get to watch him just going absolutely mental at someone for misplacing a 5-yard pass slightly or whatever. It's really good stuff. But I'll miss that too.
I was going to stick with you because you said you watched the game against St Johnstone, yeah?
Yes, I did, unfortunately.
Thoughts then, because again, something that me and Phil spoke about last time out was whether or not Shayden Morris would earn a start in the league against St Johnstone. After sitting through the 90 minutes, just like me and Phil did with the women's game on the Friday night, I did say to Phil, I'm questioning whether he will get a start, but he did. What was your thoughts on him and his performance? I'm not singling him out, but again, a lot has been made on whether he deserves a start, whether he's better as an impact player. And do you think, based on last time out against St Johnstone, he'll retain his place in the starting lineup?
I really hope he does because, yeah, okay, he didn't do much against St Johnstone. Nobody did, though. It's like it's totally wouldn't be fair to say it's all Shane Morris's fault. It would be mental to do that. But yeah, he was quiet. The whole team was quiet. There was certainly nothing he did that was so bad to warrant dropping. And I'd like to see him go again. And I think also keeping him on the right hand side and allowing Keskinen to go onto his more preferred left-hand side as well and at home too, when you've got those two being so direct, so quick, and we can really get at Motherwell when there's that big crowd sort of pushing them on too. Could be a real good weapon to have. And I've also not been overly impressed with the Epiocals anyway, so just keep those two in.
Yeah, I suppose one other benefit potentially with most of our players playing today is that they should return to Aberdeen tomorrow. I suppose for the likes of Old Dabag, we'll probably not return to Aberdeen till later on. So, training Thursday, Friday. I don't even know if they'll train Thursday, but I'm sure like training on Friday. So not too much kind of sessions to get involved. But again, Callum, coming back to you just on the point you mentioned about Jeppe Ockels, because again, me and Phil discussed it last time out, albeit different scenario given the scoreline, the impact of the subs. That's another thing that has been leveled at the team, that we're not seeing enough from the bench when they're coming on. It is certainly this weekend, and again, talking about the business end of the season, this is something we really need to see. Jimmy Tilleen spoke about it at the start of the season, that every player was kind of chomping at the bit, getting involved, making an impact. But it certainly felt over the last 3-4 games, whenever we're making the subs, Dundee United game maybe aside, there hasn't been that impact and urgency from the bench.
I suppose we've not had the same amount of options either, which has got to be considered, with Sockler just coming back and Bissauin's still out. and then we had Gay out for a long period of time and things. The options haven't been quite the same as that start to the season, where every time there was someone coming off the bench and making something happen.
Fair.
No, it's not been the same, and I suppose that's the one thing you lose without having Shayden Morris, because he's usually the first guy you call upon, and as you see him coming on after warming up, you think, okay, he can turn this around, he can make something happen. With him starting, you don't have that, but at the same time, he deserves to play, in my opinion. And I suppose now with Esther Sockler being back amongst things, Danny Polvara being back amongst things, we might start to see those players come off the bench having more impact, and that should only improve as well with the more minutes that they get. However, ideally this weekend it would just be nice if we didn't have to rely on that for once, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be, and Phil, I think again, kind of coming to you on this, the sense, because you brought the point up about the crowd and the reactions to seeing players. I think Carl makes quite a good point about, yes, right now we've not got Shayden Morris as that impact sub because he's starting and he's earned the right to start. But when you saw Shayden Morris coming on, the crowd got a lift and a bit of excitement. There's not the same buzz and excitement as when Peter Ambrose and Pape Gay are coming on, are there?
No, probably not. And I think it really is just down to how electric Shayden is. I mean, there's no reason that buzz can't come from him being in the starting lineup, knowing that we have such an electric player starting, and especially one that obviously in the media just now has been sort of saying that he's wanting to get a new deal and play his way into a new deal with the club. But I think like Callum said, Sockler coming back, Gay coming back as well. It kind of gives us those slightly more established names, I guess, amongst the fan base that might bring that little level of excitement. Ambrose doesn't really do that. Vinny did that for a little bit. I think even like Fletcher Boyd coming on kind of picks the crowd up a little bit just with it being, a young local lad that's had his impact last season. So yeah, but I do think that a lot more has to be basically done from the bench. I mean, that was one of the key factors to us doing so well at the start of the season, and was just how impactful our changes have been. I think that's kind of contributed to this slight fall off in our form. But hopefully Sockler back, double against Motherwell, down to Hampden, another goal there. Happy days.
That being said, that you say you want to see more from the bench. I'd like to see more from the starting 11 than we saw against St Johnstone as well. To be fair,
Yeah, well, that's the other thing as well. As much as we're speaking about the bench not making an impact again, like I said, the Dunfermline game is a difficult one given the score line in the game. But yeah, it certainly felt at the St Johnstone game from what I've read and been told that the subs didn't have that impact. But I think you're absolutely spot on, Callum. Ultimately, we shouldn't be relying on our bench in these situations. We should be seeing more of an impact from the starting 11. But again, from what you saw against St Johnstone last time out, would you expect the front two to continue as is with Obde Dabag and Kevin Nisbet leading the line?
I hope so. I mean, the service that they got against Johnson was non-existent, but we've seen, what can happen against Dundee United. When they do get the service, when these players do get the service, and I think they had started sort of their understanding is starting to develop more, and I think it's a combination that works well. They both are clinical when given the opportunity. It's just about giving the opportunity, and especially at home again. I know, as you say, Ode Dabag might not be back in the country for another couple of days yet. But I would like to see them both go again at Pittodrie, and with Keskinen and Morris on either side of them, providing them that service. And then when you think about it, you've then got Palaversa and Clarkson potentially supplying them too. Hopefully, it should work out.
And we saw obviously last time out at Pittodrie against Dunfermline with those 4 players, or 6 actually, I should say, what effect it had. But Phil, Calm spoke about kind of combinations, partnerships, and the fact that it's kind of broken down with Mitov now being injured. It's a new goalkeeper and defence because Doohan's will not have played behind Alfie Dorrington at least, and probably not Knoosters either. So again, that's a new combination. So probably is important for us to at least have one partnership familiar with each other, albeit still in its infancy, but up top.
Yeah, no, that's what I was gonna just say there was that, Dabag's obviously still adjusting to his new surroundings. And I think the more minutes we can get under his belt, playing alongside, primarily Nisbet and Tope,
Mm.
will serve us all the better coming into the tail end of the season, get him sort of sharper with when and where to make his runs. And to be honest, I think, having him up top as that man on the shoulder, I think will hopefully work quite well against Motherwell. From what I've seen, they do like to try and press a little bit higher. So having that slightly different threat that is more willing to run in behind, I think, should hopefully, knock on wood, make us a little bit more fruitful in front of goal.
Well, Phil's just said hopefully we're more fruitful in front of goal. So here's hoping that when we come back next week, Callum, we've got more to speak about in terms of goal mouth action, and more importantly, 3 points in that top 6 status secured.
Yeah, that would be lovely. I think we were quite fortunate that there was an international break after that draw against St Johnstone, because had there been a game the following weekend and we had to talk about the St Johnstone game, we'd have been really struggling. Even if you had seen all of the game, it would have been made much easier, to be honest. It was better that we at least had, I didn't see it to say. That was better. But yeah, it has to be a lot better this time round. I think with the crowd, as I say, things, they've got to be up for it. They've got to be up for it. They know what's at stake. Of course, Motherwell will be coming up here thinking, why can't they get a result? And rightly so. So hopefully, I'm trying not to say it should be a cracker, but there will be fireworks, as Aberdeen Manny said.
Yeah, there'll be fireworks pretty much, hopefully, during the 90 minutes as well. And there's something for us to discuss excitingly next week. But thank you very much for tuning in to yet another podcast of Red Tinted Glasses. As I said, there is a former player interview dropping over the weekend, hopefully. If not, I might wait till Monday. Callum and Phil have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about, which is even better. I'm just going to have to get Callum to do some editing for that potentially. So get your notifications on, and maybe the three of us will be back again next week with a live episode. Who knows? We don't know. We'll keep you all waiting. We'll keep everything in suspense. So until then, see you next.